Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Then you really got to start focusing on protecting what you have. And you end up, the more deals you do, the inevitable problems arise, post close of escrow, a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. And you have to know how to handle all that stuff. And it'd be good if you had the experience to lean off from someone else that's made those mistakes, that has had those issues. There's been quite a few things here that learning lessons for me, and even some I'm still going through as we speak, that it's like, hey, if I just would have done this and this differently, I probably wouldn't be in this position.
Yeah.
And granted, some of that comes just through time and experience in the industry. And a lot of it, though, I think you could probably avoid by having the right people around you and really learning from their mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, the area we're in, Southern California, California period is really litigious, right? And so it's a bit of a minefield, and risk mitigation is a big deal. I owned a Keller Williams office for 18 years, and risk mitigation was a huge thing for me because I was the broker owner, right? I was the one that was on the line. And so, that's something that's incredibly important. And in life, you're going to succeed or you're going to learn, one of the two, right? And
Yeah.
so, one of the best ways to learn is to at times come up short and then learn to never do that again, kind of thing, So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about today. So we're up to today. You're currently actively flipping houses, right? And then you're also the president of the North San Diego Real Estate Investors Association. Talk a little bit about that. I'm obviously a big fan and a member, right? Talk about what you do to educate the industry. I mean, Bruce Norris does an annual thing with us, and you interviewed him a few months ago. That was fascinating. Last year was fascinating. Talk a little bit about North San Diego Real Estate Investors Association.
Yeah. So to elaborate on that a little bit. So it's now, so it graduated from being an agent to doing, partnering with the investor, to doing some of my own. I still do some agent work, usually just a handful of deals every year that are referrals or my own properties. And now I've got development projects going, and I have a portfolio of rentals. I have a couple Airbnbs now. And so it's, I bought mobile home parks. So it's kind of, it's kind of gotten to a point where, the over the years, I've learned quite a bit about quite a bit. But what I always want to make sure I point out, like I'm still extremely humble and realize that what I don't know is massive, way more than what I do know. But I think that a lot of that has been paved the way for a foundation for me to be able to help people at the NSDREI. So for instance, we'll have speakers come in and talk, and panelists, et cetera, and there'll be Q&A sections. And it's been really fun for me to put together interviews for a lot of these high level investors and market movers and just brilliant minds, and now be able to have a little more educated conversations about the ramifications of certain things in real estate, et cetera, because I've gone through a lot of this, and I made the mistakes. And so I think that I've been really grateful to have the kind of widespread education in the industry. And I started at the NSDREI. I'll backtrack a second because it's a pretty cool story. This was a house in Poway that I found by door knocking, and there was a bunch of newspapers and stuff piled on the front door. And so I door knocked at that in the neighborhood, and there was nobody there. So I ended up tracking down the heirs of the person that owned it, were the son. And I called him and I was like, hey, we want to buy your house. And he was a little skeptical. And long story short, we ended up negotiating a deal. And the investor I was partnered with at the time, she bought it. And we did an equity split type thing. I was the agent on the deal, so I got to represent that. And then on the backside of the deal, when we listed the property, I get a phone call from a gentleman who's like, hey, I don't have an agent and we want the house. We want you to write us an offer. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's meet over there tomorrow. I'll show you the house and we'll talk. So the guy gets out of the car and I'm like, man, I recognize you. You're the president of the NSDREI. And I'm like, I just joined recently as a member. It's been great. And mind you, this was many years ago. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. Welcome. We chatted. And I ended up submitting an offer for him on our own flip. And he ended up not coming up enough in cash, enough in price to get the deal with someone overpay essentially for the house. But what happened was Suzanne Croft, who I knew from our office, had an off-market deal across the street that was a very ugly divorce situation. And so I called Suzanne and was like, hey, what's going on with this deal? And she's like, it's really sticky, but if you want to give it a go, I trust you, Derek. Let's see what we can do. So we ended up getting them an escrow on that deal, very sticky deal, but got it closed. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of ups and downs throughout that escrow. And what happened was afterward, Eric was like, hey, we really like the way you handled that transaction. Would you like to help out the board of directors at the NSDREI? And at that time, there wasn't an open board seat, but I just, again, it's a nonprofit. I went and volunteered and helped the board and helped. I think I started with marketing and flyers and stuff and just donated my time. And soon enough, there was a board seat that opened up and I got voted to be on the board. And then after a few years of being on the board, Eric decided to move his family to Florida. Mm-hmm. And then I replaced him as president. So, but it all started with me door knocking I had no money or anything. I just door knocked and found a deal, put it together, and you can see how all this kind of came together. Yeah. And so now that was kind of the backstory for how I got at the NSDREI. Well, and what is the NSDREI? Well, it's the North San Diego Real Estate Investor Association. That's what the acronym stands for. Mm-hmm. And it really is, it's a conduit and a place, a safe space for investors and people who want to become real estate investors to come and educate themselves and learn and network, and with the goal of eventually taking action in real estate investing, because we know it can change people's life, right? Yeah. So we provide education, we provide speakers, we provide market updates, and really a place for people to network and intermingle and create relationships that will be fruitful and last a very long time. I've done quite a few deals with people within the NSDREI ecosystem and other groups like it, right? We're not the only one, and anything like that aggregates a lot of bright minds that have common threads and are like-minded individuals. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge part of real estate investing, because real estate is a team sport. There's just no way around it. I mean, you break down any transaction and you think about how many people had to touch that transaction in order to get it to the finish line. So yeah, it's been such a blessing. We're coming up on our 20th year now. So our 20th anniversary will be in June of 2024. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been blessed to be the president of it for a few years now. And I have nothing but good things to say about the board and the organization and really what we stand for. And I've been to a lot of the real estate investor meetup groups in California now. And I can say that we're one of the best, if not the best.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've been to a few other investor association meetings and participated with some others, and it's by far the best I've seen. And I'm actually, just full disclosure, I'm actually in counter stage with an investor that's also a member. So
okay.
Yeah, so this absolutely works, man. I've added to my database. I've built relationships. I had dinner with a flipper. I had dinner at NSD REI with a flipper that sat at the same table that we sat at, and we're actually working on a potential deal together right now. So,
Sweet.
there are real benefits to the membership, right? And real benefits to being a part of NSD REI, and I'm super, super proud of it and super proud of you. So
Well, thank you. I
really been a
appreciate
lot
that.
of,
And
it's
you know,
really, it's for me, I've gleaned a lot of value from it.
well, that's good to hear, and I'm grateful to hear that, because like we usually do get good feedback, and it's very rare where someone will say I learned nothing tonight, or I didn't meet anybody impactful. Like that's really rare. I mean, you go to a place like this, you're going to get value from it. And I do want to make sure I point out, there's a 9-person board of directors, and Denise, who is our admin, and it really takes all 10 of us to put this together. We divide and conquer, and I'm grateful to have the impact of everyone that comes together to make this. I just get to be the face of the franchise, but really what happens behind the scenes is a lot of work, and it's a lot of other credit for me to deliver. So I just want to make sure I pointed that out.
Yeah, Denise is amazing, absolutely amazing. In fact, the entire team is.
Yes.
But she's really the lightning rod. She's the one that just, no matter what it is that needs to get done, she gets it done. So
we call her the mother hen.
Yeah, she's amazing, man. She's amazing. So is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? Anything else that we'll put a link to the NSD REI website in our description for the podcast episode. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
So I think if I look back now on a 13-year career, like what I always ask our speakers, right? When I have the benefit of interviewing people, there's a few questions that I usually ask people that I think are impactful. And the question is, first one is, what advice would you give to someone who was just getting started in this industry? Like, what would be the first thing you'd tell them to do? And so everyone's answer is a little different. I think my answer to that question is, I say, look, if your goals are to get into real estate as a real estate investor, let's just say we're talking about getting into single family house flipping, right? Say the first things you need to do is you need to get educated. You need to take your education seriously, and you need to be willing to pay for it. And I'm not saying go out and spend $50,000 on a run to the back of the room type event or something like that. But I am saying that you have to go and seek it, because there is no real class you can go to locally or something that teaches
they
this.
Don't teach this at Mesa College or Sonoma State.
That's correct. So you have to be willing to travel to go to weekend seminars by some of the really good speakers. You have to be willing to go to the real estate investor meetup groups, and you have to be willing to put in the time and energy to learn that way. Part of your education too is going to look at as much real estate as you can. Go to the broker caravans, go to any open house that you can, and just start familiarizing yourself with what prices are, what you get for that price, and different agents and how people talk. And so speaking of talking, you got to learn the language. And so how do you learn the language of real estate? It's through education, it's through time, and it's through experience. So I would say those things first. And I would say you're going to compress your timeline a lot if you find a mentor. And it's not always as easy as just saying that, right? Because a lot of these people are busy, and a lot of these people don't necessarily have time to just show you the ropes. But what they do have is a desire for more income. So if, like we talked about earlier, you can go and figure out a way to bring value by finding a deal or doing project management for free or something like that, like that will compress your timeline in this industry, because you will bring value to somebody who will want to return the favor and show you how to do this and not make the mistakes. They'll show you the forms to use, the underwriting documents, the pitfalls, and the design and the contracts. You don't need to go figure that out on your own if you don't have to. So I would say those two things to me are like the first things that I would suggest somebody does. And like, if you're willing to do that, then I think you will end up being successful, because this business is simply, a formula of what you put in is usually what you get out. And so I think those two things are really important. I'd say along the lines of education, like you gotta keep reading and keeping a good mindset, because in this business you will find a lot of things that go wrong, and if you take the wrong mindset to it, you'll probably talk yourself out of a job, because if you get focused on the bad, you won't really appreciate the good.
Right.
And there's just so much of it. And I would say too that, look, the idea of house flipping is a business model that will create enough cash for you and opportunities to be able to hold real estate, right? That's how you become wealthy, is by owning assets that grow in value over time. You don't do it by collecting paychecks. They're nice, right? You close an escrow on a flip, you get a check for $100,000. Like, that's great, but keep in mind, you got to pay capital gains tax on that. You have overhead. And so let's say you're in a 40% tax bracket. There goes 40% of it right away. So it seems like on TV it's all glamorous and these numbers are hugely inflated. And granted, sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. And sometimes you actually lose money. But my point is, see if you can pull chips off the table, right? The first deal I ever held on to was a triplex. And I really wanted to flip it because I wanted the cash at the time. But I just like, no, my mentors have taught me I got to start hanging on to stuff. And so I've just dug my heels in and my claws in, I should say, and figured out a way to tread water to hang on to it. And I bought that thing for 405, and now it's worth probably 125.
Wow.
And so it's like that's the wealth creator, right? It's worth almost $1 million more than when I bought it. And and if you could rinse and repeat that, even one per year, right?
Yeah.
And you do this for 20 years, that's your retirement. You're done. So just mindset, hold. Yeah. If you can figure out a way to dig your claws in and hold on to stuff, you're going to be so happy you did, and your family's going to be happy you did down the line.
Yeah, more millionaires are created in real estate than anything else. And the reason for it is the tax code too, right? It's an asset that continues to appreciate, but the tax code also encourages you to buy property and to rent it out. So that's a big deal. And it's something people take advantage of, and they make a lot of money every year doing it.
Absolutely.
They can set themselves up for life,
For sure. I mean, I could get into this tax conversation for as long as we wanted to. I don't know if you're familiar with John Heyer, but John Heyer is he's a real estate tax attorney expert, and he's now doing these really awesome seminars on tax strategies for the wealthy and real estate investing. And I joined his inner circle. So that's another thing. Guys like this, John Heyer, for those of you guys listening, Hyre, just go and Google it. You can see what I mean, right? He speaks this high level tax language that the only way I ever would have learned anything about it was by going to another seminar where he was mentioned, and we went down the rabbit hole, and now I'm part of his inner circle. And now a lot of his strategies have saved me literally hundreds of thousands of dollars now every year when and it's having the foresight to plan the year before. Is like, I used to be retroactive and would be like, okay, I made X and now I've got to write a check for Y. Or now it's like, I'm working moves into the future. Like, okay, I'm going to have a big tax bill on this, so I need to buy this type of property that has a ton of depreciation that I can offset. Like, that's how you get into the wealth mindset, and how you keep a lot more of your income, because you can make a ton of money in this business, but you can also give a lot of it back to the IRS. So I would say that's another thing too for people is get educated in taxation, because it's a big part of this business. And I will leave with a shameless plug to Gary Johnston. If anybody hasn't taken Gary Johnston's Financial Freedom Principles course, it's the foundation for understanding everything in the real estate investment space. I wish it was taught in colleges. I don't have kids yet. I plan on having kids here soon. But 100%, if he's still teaching it, that's mandatory education. And I've gone back twice now just because it's that good. And anyway, I would just say anyone listening, if you're just getting going, like, you have to go take that class. It's foundational for everything else you'll do in this industry.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, listen, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of the Mike Litton experience. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for all the value that you bring. Thank you for your leadership with NSD REI. I'm super, super proud of you, and I'm super proud that you were a part of our program. I appreciate you, buddy.
Of course, I appreciate the invite, Mike, and I'm sure we'll be talking here soon again. So good luck with the rest of the podcast episodes, and good on you to anyone taking the time to listen to it and grow their mindset.
Thanks again. I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Take care. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.